Well, thank you very much, Katalin. It is a pleasure and honor for me to welcome you on behalf of Dr. Zoltán Gyenge, Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences here at the University of Szeged. As a Vice Dean for International Affairs, I've had the pleasure to welcome similar events here. And I must say that we have very strong links with Finland, Finnish institutions, and these are not confined to the Department of Finno-Ugric Studies, but also extend beyond that. We have this Institute of Educational Science, where we have experts, colleagues who are very much embedded in educational practices and theories and methodology. And I know that they have also strong links with such places as the University of Helsinki or Tampere. And I also am aware, and that brings us closer to today's topic of this seminar, that we in Hungary have always been jealous of our Finnish colleagues and also the education system there, because of this PISA test results that Finnish students, Finnish school children have produced over the years so far, and we are aware that we have a lot to learn from Finnish colleagues about the Finnish educational system, and that's another reason why we should welcome such occasions, such seminars, conferences, because they provide us with the opportunity to learn about these the secret of our Finnish friends. With these remarks, let me welcome you again, and I hope you enjoy this seminar, and I hope you learn a lot from the presentations, and I hope to see you back again someday in Szeged. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vice Dean, dear professors, teachers, students, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great joy for me to be here in Szeged today, here at the university. I would like to thank FinnAgora, Finnish Institute, and University of Szeged of inviting me to participate in this very important seminar. As ambassador of Finland, I feel always privileged when I have the opportunity to speak about education. Finland's education system has become famous and is widely considered successful. What is the secret of this success? There are, of course, many reasons, but one of the most important ones is that everyone in Finland considers education as a matter of crucial importance. Efforts are being made constantly to improve the system and adjust it to meet future challenges. In 1948, the UN Human Rights Convention declared the right to education as a fundamental human right. This year, Finland is seeking membership in the UN Human Rights Council for the term 2022 to 24. The campaign gives us a good opportunity to underline again the importance of the right to quality education. Conferences and seminars are good tools to move forward on this path by sharing our thoughts, experiences, and best practices, and by searching together the ways to improve education systems. Finnish-Hungarian cooperation in the field of education has been active since several decades. Universities, the University of Szeged among them, have always been working as hubs for new ideas and exchanges, in Szeged's case, especially together with the University of Turku, the twin city of Szeged. Our cultural institute, FinnAgora, has always had education as a priority theme in its program during its 17 years of operation. I would like to thank once again the organizers, FinnAgora and the University of Szeged, for this excellent program, and I wish all participants a fruitful afternoon. Thank you.
This is just introduction. I'm still not going through the slides. Good. Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it's a great pleasure for me to open this seminar, which is organized in collaboration with the University of Szeged and its Faculty of Finno-Ugric Languages. My name is Eero Yrjö-Koskinen, and I'm the director of FinnAgora, the Finnish Institute in Hungary. The topic of today's seminar is education in Finland and Hungary. Education has played a crucial role in the development of Finland that has traditionally lacked major natural resources apart from forests. By introducing a universal free education to its population, Finland was able to make use of the potential talent of its citizens. This, in turn, allowed the most talented individuals to rise to the highest positions of society, regardless of their social background. I believe this played a crucial role in the economic and social development in Finland. After the Second World War, Finland was still a poor and heavily agrarian country. This changed dramatically in the 1950s and 60s as Finland had to pay important war debts to the Soviet Union. By securing free education, Finland made sure that the country could provide the trained workforce needed for its development. The rest is history. Finland eventually rose to become one of the most developed countries in the world, with a skilled workforce and vibrant society. There are, however, some trends that raise concerns regarding the continuity of these success stories, and I hope that we will discuss these issues at today's seminar. In today's seminar, we hope to hear new aspects to developments in the education sector in Finland and Hungary. First, we will hear an overview of the Finnish education system with comparisons to Hungary by Ms. Anna Orava, who is currently a lecturer at the University of Szeged. Next, Mr. László Ostorics, head of department of the PISA national project in Hungary, will present the latest Hungarian PISA results. And finally, we will hear a presentation on lifelong learning in Finland by Ms. Pauliina Kupila, who is the head of training at the University of Helsinki. After each presentation, the audience will have the possibility to raise one or two questions before we move on to the next speaker. And if you wish to make that question in Hungarian, please do so. Professor Katalin Sipőcz has promised to translate that into English if necessary. And finally, we will have a panel discussion moderated by Professor Sipőcz, who is the head of the Faculty of Finno-Ugric Languages at Szeged University. And the seminar will end at 4 p.m., after which we will have a small reception and serve some snacks to the audience. So I wish you can stay with us for a while after the seminar so that we can get to know each other and discuss today's topics. Next, I would now ask Ms. Anna Orava to come forward and give her presentation on the Finnish and Hungarian education systems. I wish you an interesting seminar, and Anna, you have the floor.
Okay, good day everybody. So as you heard, my name is Anna Orava and I am the Finnish language lecturer here in Szeged University, and I will be telling you about the higher education system in Finland and Hungary. Mostly I will concentrate in my presentation to the system in Finland, but I will note some things about the system in Hungary, making some comparison whether something is different or similar as in the system in Finland. And yes, this way, all right. First of all, I want to show you or present you the whole Finnish education system in a nutshell, just so you can see everything, kind of what also precedes the higher education. So, first of all, in Finland, children have the obligation to study from the year they turn 7 years old until they are 18. This used to be until 16. Just recently it was changed in Finland so that the compulsory education is until 18 years old children. In Hungary, this has been the case like 12 years ago, but these days in Hungary, compulsory education is only 7 to 16-year-olds. And during compulsory education in Finland, the education is also free. And that means in Finland that all the books, all materials like pens, pencils, notebooks, whatever, are free for children. They get them from school. Now that the compulsory education was extended to 18 years, it means that also vocational education is part of that. So even professional education, and even there the students are allowed some equipment that is necessary for their profession. For example, scissors for hairdressers and such are free for them. Also, free lunch is included in schools every day for every children in Finland. It's considered to be very crucial thing to keep the children healthy and able to concentrate in the school. And yeah, here you can see, so we have the pre-primary education that is for 6-year-olds. It happens in daycare, and that is not yet part of the compulsory education. Then we have the basic or primary education that lasts for 9 years, from 7 to 16 years old. And then we have upper secondary education, which is divided to two different kinds of schools. So there are upper secondary schools and vocational colleges. and upper secondary schools are like board-based, and they are meant to prepare the students for the further education, the higher education. And then vocational colleges actually provide the students with a profession and also prepare them for further studies. So both of these keep all the ways open for higher education also. So it doesn't matter which path you chose in upper secondary education, you can still keep going in higher education. Okay. So about the higher education system in Finland, it is also divided into two branches. We have universities, and then we have universities for applied sciences, or UAS. And 13 universities and 22 universities of applied sciences. And the difference is a little bit similar as in upper secondary in a way. So in universities, the focus is on scientific research and education based on that. And also universities promote lifelong learning, and they aim to make an impact to the society with their research results as well as artistic activities alike. And then in universities of applied sciences, they focus on pragmatic education that really aims to respond to the needs of the working life. And also their focus is on applied research and development, and even regional development. A few words about coordination of higher education in Finland. I forgot to say about the higher education system. So in Hungary, in Hungary there is no more this kind of divided system. There used to be, but nowadays in Hungary there are only universities, and there's over 60 universities in Hungary in total. But so a few words about coordination of higher education in Finland. So universities, they operate within the Ministry of Education and Culture's administrative branch. And basically the ministry coordinates the activities and also sets quantitative targets for higher education institutions, universities and UASs alike. And UASs in Finland, they operate as public limited companies, and most universities are corporations under public law. And basically the government, the state, owns the majority of these companies or corporations. Then we do have also 2 universities in Finland that are foundations, and those are Aalto University in Helsinki and also University of Tampere. But it must be said that in Finland the foundation universities still are legally foremost under the University Act, and only then under the Foundations Act, which basically means that for example, the board needs to be chosen by the same principles in foundation universities as it is chosen in other universities. This is basically to ensure the freedom of research, the freedom of science and art and tuition, which is even mentioned in the constitutional law of Finland. In Hungary lately, many universities have changed to foundations, and there's been a lot of debate about that. For example, also University of Szeged just recently became a foundation university. But there are still also governmental universities in Hungary, for example, ELTE in Budapest is still like that. And about funding a little bit, Ministry of Education and Culture acts as the main financial resource for the higher education institutions, but also external funding is used, and here's just some examples of that. Okay, let's move on. A few words about university studies in Finnish universities. So basically university studies are divided similarly as in Hungary. So there is the bachelor's degree around 3 years, and there's a master's degree around 2 years, and then there's the post-graduate degrees. And there are still some also differences. Mostly this is similar in Hungary, but there are differences. First of all, in Finland, a student who is admitted to a university, they automatically get the study rights for the master's degree also. In Hungary, students need to reapply for master's degree. In Finland, students automatically get the study right, and they can automatically, after bachelor's degree, continue their studies in master's degree. And usually students in Finnish universities at least aim to complete both BA and MA studies. And then another difference is that in Hungary, students can change the major subject when they move from bachelor's degree to master's degree, so they can have a different major subject. In Finland, the same major is kept throughout the university studies, so the master's degree studies are kind of meant to deepen the knowledge of that major subject. And studying in universities in Finland is free for Finnish citizens. However, students need to pay the fee for student union membership, which is around 50 to 80 euros per each year that they are studying in a university. And in Hungary, the studies are free for 5 years. And then if it takes longer, the studies take longer, then it won't be free anymore. In Finland, also this 5-year aim to complete the studies is there, and the maximum actually is 7. So 5 is like the recommended, and 7 is then the maximum that the students can spend in the university. But it's always free. Only this membership fee for the student union must be paid every year. Yes, and then there's the postgraduate degrees, doctoral degrees, similar in Finland and Hungary, it's 4 years. Finland also has a licentiate degree, which is basically a pre-doctoral degree of 2 years, like half a doctor, and then can continue to full doctor, so to say. And I have also mentioned here that 1 credit equals 27 hours of work. This is this is based on the Bologna Act that was some years ago already. And basically it was concluded that a full-time studying should be 1,600 hours in a year. And that's 60 credits in universities. And if we make the maths, that means that 1 credit equals 27 hours of work. And for example, in the University of Helsinki, they have even guidelines for teachers that they know how much work they can include in a course of, let's say, like 3 credits. They have guidelines such as a student can write around 7 pages in 10 hours if the text is not very laboring, like a report. And then if the text is like very laboring, like a thesis, for example, then it will take 10 hours for the student to write only 2 pages. And these kind of guidelines are used to follow the amount of work. Here you can see what is included in bachelor's and master's degrees in Finland, and this is quite similar to many cases in Hungary. There are the studies in major and minor subjects, then there's some common studies that are mandatory, which can be a little bit different in different fields of study, language communication studies, which in Finland usually include some studies of mother tongue, the second official, and some foreign language studies maybe. Work practice or internship may be mandatory or voluntary depending on the field of study, and then there's always a final thesis to be written. And I wanted to mention a little bit about the minor studies also, because basically for example in Hungary usually students can have only 1 minor subject and then some other optional studies. In Finland, there is no limitations like that. The minor subject can be chosen very freely, as in Hungary also, they can be chosen very freely, but also in Finland there is no limitations how many you can have subjects as your minor or how many extra studies you can have. Basically the only limitation is time. You have the 5 years or maximum 7 years to study, and you can complete as many studies as you can within that time. And yeah, in Hungary it's a little bit different, usually only one minor, and then even in Hungary the amount of credits that can be completed during the studies is also limited, and at least what they can complete for free is limited. Yeah. Then I wanted to mention just very quickly about a few special cases. Well, also in Hungary, for example, the doctors, they do not have their BA and MA studies in universities, but when you want to become a doctor, you apply to a medical university, and then you will have to finish the base level studies of 6 years to become a doctor. There's no mid-ground there, middle way. And after that, you can then keep studying or like actually specialize into some field of medical sciences to become a cardiologist or oncologist and such, which will usually take another 5 to 6 years to complete. And then for teacher studies, in Finland there's basically 3 kinds of teacher, similar in Hungary actually. There's daycare teachers or kindergarten teachers who work in daycares, in the pre-primary education, and in Finland you can become a daycare teacher by either completing studies, bachelor studies in UAS, in social sciences, or completing university bachelor's degree in education science. And then there is school teacher, which basically is a teacher in primary school in grades 1 to 6. And to become that, one must complete university MA, so university master's degree, either in education science or educational psychology, and they must also include the wide studies in the teachable subjects. And then there is the so-called subject teacher, which is, for example, an English teacher or a biology teacher who can work in primary schools or upper secondary schools. And to be able to work as that, you need to complete university master's degree in at least one of teachable subjects and plus the 60 credit pedagogical studies. Yes. And one other thing I wanted to mention, some language specialities. Many of you might know that in Finland we have 2 official languages, Finnish language and Swedish language. And hence we have 2 completely Swedish language universities, Åbo University in Oulu and then Hanken School of Economics in Helsinki and Vaasa. Around 5% of the university-age people are Swedish-speaking Finnish. We also have 3 universities that are bilingual, all of them in Helsinki. And in bilingual schools, some degrees can be studied completely in Swedish, but not all of them. And then one more speciality is that in the University of Oulu, it is possible to study Fennougristic Sami language as a major subject. Okay, then let's move on to the UAS, or Universities of Applied Sciences. Their system works a little bit differently, so there also is bachelor's and master's degrees. Bachelor's degree is either 210, 240 or 270 credits, depending on the field of the study. And it consists of basic studies, which basically provide the basis to continue the studies in that field. In professional studies, students are choosing the field of expertise, and then there are elective studies which are like freely chosen from any UASs around Finland, actually. And then there is practical training part and also final thesis, similar like in universities. And then there is also the master's degree that can be completed in UAS. But before one can study the master's degree in UAS, they must have at least 3 years of working experience. So usually the students of UASs complete the bachelors, then they go to working life for a couple of years, and then if they wish, they can continue to master's studies. And the UAS master's degree is either 60 or 90 credits, so that's around 1 to 1.5 years. And it includes advanced special studies of the field and some elective studies again, and the final thesis in the end. And then I wanted to mention, since we are discussing in this seminar also the lifelong learning, I wanted to mention open universities and open UASs. So they are not like their own separate institutions, but actually in Finland, almost all Finnish universities and UAS offer a wide range of studies in the form of open studies. And they basically provide the opportunity to familiarize with higher education, for example, before you start studies in university, or they give an opportunity to supplement prior degrees and acquire new competencies. And there is no entrance exam for open university studies, but they are not free. There is a fee for each course or a set of courses to be paid. They are usually basic or intermediate level courses, and they do not lead to a degree. However, the studies in the open universities can be added into a degree in a university.
2 minutes.
Yes, and actually that brings us to the final slide of mine. I wanted to mention something about the financial aid that students may have in Finland. First of all, it's available to Finnish citizens mostly, and to get, so the conditions, how do you get it? To get the aid, the student first of all must be admitted to a school to get it. Also, they must show steady progress, and they must be studying full time. And also they must need the aid. If you don't need it, you don't get it. For example, if a student is working a lot and he gets a decent income, then that affects his possibilities to get the aid. And yeah, the aid may consist of a study grant, and also there's a government guarantee for a student loan. And the amount of study grant depends on very many things. For example, the age of the student, type of school, where they live and with whom they live. Do they live at home with parents or with a spouse or alone? Do they have children, maybe? So all of this affects. Basic rate for a study grant is around 250 euros, but it can depend on these factors. And yeah, the student loan is completely guaranteed by government, but of course it must be paid back in the end. And then students are also, they may be entitled to general housing allowance, which is basically an allowance that is meant for any person with low income, and it is meant to help with the housing costs with the apartment. So it's also one possibility with these. In Hungary, there is less financial aid for students. There is a student loan that they are entitled to. Also in Hungary, there is a scholarship system where the students can be rewarded for their success in studies in forms of scholarships. Oh yes, then also I wanted to mention that in Finland there's also many other ways that the students are supported. For example, in all big cities there are student apartment associations or foundations which rent apartments specifically to students with lower rent than in average in that city. Usually studios or like shared flats. Dormitories are not as common in Finland as they are in Hungary. Also, I earlier mentioned that the students of universities must pay this student union membership fee, and with that they are entitled to many discounts, for example in public transport or restaurants. There is even lunch allowance for students, which means that in university cafeterias and university restaurants, the students can buy lunch for €2.30 cheaper than other people. So a little help there too. I think that was probably all I wanted to say at this part. So yes, thank you for your attention at this point, and if there's any questions you would like to ask me now, I'd be happy to, but thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Anna. So I turn to the audience if you have any questions. Please, Mr. Ambassador.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yes.
you. Just a quick, small question related to your, perhaps the final sentence regarding the support given to students in different ways. What about healthcare? How is it nowadays? I remember that there was some sort of support when I was a student many decades ago, but how is it nowadays?
Yes, absolutely. There is, with this student union membership fee, students are also allowed to this special healthcare for students, and basically it is also supported so that it's cheaper for students. For example, even dental healthcare is one way of support for students. It is not free, but it's cheaper than what it would be otherwise. So yes, there is.
Thank you, and thank you for excellent presentation. I learned, or I actually was updated in many things. Thank you.
Actually, I had another question. In my introductory remarks, I mentioned that there are some latest trends that raise some concerns regarding the equity of students nowadays. I understand that during the past few years, in most faculties, the competition is so harsh that there are some private services offered to students preparing themselves for exams, and those are very expensive. It has become a norm in many of these faculties to go through those courses, because without them you are bound to be in a very difficult position when you're doing the exam. Do you see this as a problem?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting situation that has developed little by little, and it is definitely interesting since in Finland basically the education is supposed to be free. Of course, when you move on to higher education, you still have to pay something like books and stuff for yourself. But this means that people who have the money to pay for these preparatory courses have better chances to go to higher education, and definitely that is a problem. It's not the idea, I think, that is supposed to be behind the whole education system in Finland, which is based on equality and that it's free.
That's right. Any further questions? This lady, if you can come a bit closer, or then we give you the microphone so that people online can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question about if you already mentioned exams. So, if what kind of differences do you have in Finland doing exams, like in Hungary we have?
Yeah, actually that's one thing that is good to mention. So first of all, in Hungary there are exam periods after each semester. Exam period when you do the exams. In Finland the system is a little bit different because in Finland the school year in the universities it's not only divided into 2 semesters but it's also divided into so-called periods. And there is 4 periods during the whole year, 2 in autumn and 2 in spring. And after each period, they are usually around, I think, like 1.5 months or something like that, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that. And after each period, there is an exam for the course, usually. And then the students must be allowed for 3 possibilities to do the exam, to write the exam. And there's usually this one right after the period where the course was. And then there are so-called common exam days, which are around like every month. There's this common exam days, and the students may enroll to those, whichever suits them the best. So if they cannot complete the exam right after the course at the end of the period, then they can choose to go to some of these common exam dates to complete the exam. It a little bit depends on the university, the systems, they're a little bit different kinds, but in general it's something like this. So yeah, it's different.
Very good. I think we will need to move on to the next presentation. Thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I would like to invite Mr. László Ostorics, Head of the Department of the PISA National Project in Hungary, to give his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear colleagues and distinguished guests, just while we get the slides, let me thank again all those who participated in inviting me to this event. As Mr. Director has already said, I am the National Project Manager for PISA currently, and I work in a state agency called Educational Authority, Oktatási Hivatal in Hungarian, which if you might remember, if you can remember a cartoon from your childhood, the Road Runner and the Wile E. Coyote, where the coyote always had those parcels delivered to himself, which had the encryption Acme, which means a company that makes everything. That is us. Regarding education, so the Educational Authority does really everything. Apart from educating people, concerning education like teacher appraisal, curriculum development, and national or international assessments, which brings us back to me, and this is why I'm invited here. We're going to take a look mainly at the latest trends in PISA and mainly the latest results of Hungary. But we are just to have another watch to really know the time. We're going to take a look at the results of another large-scale assessment, and we are going to take a peek to the results of our northern friends. This is my Just this one. 13 olyan. Meanwhile, sorry, once again. So meanwhile, just let me explain that educational assessment as a thing goes way back to the 20th century. In fact, yes. Thank you. Space. Okay. In fact, to the 1950s, when the International Association for the Evaluation of Educational Achievement was founded in the Netherlands, or in Holland, as we, I think, need to say now. And Hungary has been an enthusiastic participant in fact, all educational assessments. And PISA and TIMSS, these are the oldest ones. As you may see, PISA is implemented since 2000, every 3 years, and TIMSS is implemented since 1995, every 4 years. There are, of course, similarities between the two, but there are big differences. And these originate from the responsible body being very different. So one large-scale assessment, PISA, is carried out by the OECD, which is a very much economy-based organization, while the other one, TIMSS, is carried out by the Boston College and the IEA. So this is a very much research-based organization. And from this originate differences in the nature of these large-scale assessments. Both measure similar domains like reading, mathematical and scientific literacy, and mathematics and science. However, the focus is still very different, because PISA focuses mainly on, let's say, life skills. Literacy as life skills. What you learn in the school, how do you translate it to the labor market or in higher education? While TIMSS sees these subjects as curriculum subjects. So TIMSS assesses whether the school has done what the school is supposed to do. Okay. So let's move on. With space. Great. Let's see how PISA has evolved through the years. As now, the last installment of PISA has taken place in 2018, and in 2018, 37 OECD members, which include Hungary and Finland as well, of course, and 42 partner countries and economies participated in the assessment, which means that it actually has measured the educational achievement of about the 80% of the world's economy. PISA has came a long way, because in 2000 there were only 28 OECD members and 4 partner countries. So there has been a lot of change. As we have already seen PISA wants to assess the literacy of students, which refers to students' capacity to apply their knowledge and skills in key areas like in reading, science and mathematics, to analyze, reason and communicate effectively as they identify, interpret and solve problems in a variety of situations. So PISA claims to measure skills in real-life situations. In the slide before, we didn't really touch on the subject that PISA has a driving force in itself, which drives it to constantly innovate, to constantly look for new means of assessment and new broad domains of assessment. This led to the fact that in 2015 PISA went on to become a full-on digital assessment. There has been signs of it, of course. Since 2006 there has been tests to include the digital medium into the assessment as a means of assessment. This came to fulfillment in 2015. And the latest cycle, as we have already seen, was in 2018. Let's take a look at the results. PISA has a tendency to report its results as rankings. This is a bit of a step from that policy. The OECD in 2018 decided to let the rankings at least go a bit. But they have, of course, remained to keep the assessment scale. And we usually report the results as there is, of course, an OECD mean, the average result of the OECD countries. This is the assessment scale. There you can see the mean, somewhere around 500. And of course there are the countries that punch above the OECD mean. There are some that attain exactly the OECD mean, and there are a lot that do not attain the OECD mean. So to get it clear, the mean comes just from the OECD members' results, not from the all participating countries' results. These education systems achieved above the OECD mean. Olga, this worked before.
I said, well, maybe the technician can solve it.
Na most olyan mi van?
Egy számolt érték valószínűleg.
Aha.
Hát, hogy a verziószám nem stimmel, mert ez talán régebbi point van.
Dugjuk el gyorsan a laptopot?
Megpróbálhatjuk. Persze.
Sorry.
Ja igen, csak ez nem lesz jó, nem tudom adásba tenni. Nem tudom adásba tenni akkor. Sok ilyen számolós tábla van még?
Van bőven.
Azt a... Hű, akkor egyelőre maradjunk abban, hogy minden folytatja. Én addig felteszem azt a pici programot arra a laptopra, a másik, ami jól fog működni, még ezt a hibát. Tehát párhuzamosan még folyik az előadás, én az ön laptopjára ráteszem azt a kicsi programot, amivel adásba tudom tenni.
Jó. És vajon meddig? Tehát egyik sem fog működni?
Hát most ránéztem, de itt elég sok működött.
Ez működik. Ez sem működik.
Ez valamit nem hoz kell ezeket átadatokat sajnos.
Jó, nem baj. Nem baj, ezeket törlöm, ezeket törlöm. Well, sorry for the inconvenience. This is a software version clash. So,
Sure. You can just briefly explain which ones are.
yeah, I remember all of them. Okay, let's just skip those. I think that you get the idea.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about. And if you were wondering, Finland usually appears here. Hungary usually appears somewhere around here. So Finland is constantly in, let's say, the House of Lords of OECD achievement. Hungary usually is at the top of the second third. Let's see the trends. Maybe. Most megint nem megy előre.
Lássuk, mi a gond. Kapcsoljuk simára.
Hát nem, ez történt. Következő mi?
Jó. Nézzük, bocsánat.
Nézzük.
Kiveszünk a vetítésből is.
Jó.
Elindítom.
Oké. Okay. Ez most megint az. Ja, végig kattingatod?
Valószínűleg azért, mert a számolási hiba miatt nem tudja.
De nem is megy előre?
Igen.
Ó.
Szerintem elindítom újra.
Akkor ezeket törlöm.
Jó. Jó.
Azt is. És akkor ezt is.
Jó.
Úgy látszik, csak a képeket érti.
Valamiért ez aktuális diát.
Great. Okay, we're back. Yeah. We got rid of all those pesky numbers. Well, we should have seen what happened in 2018. Now we are going to see how Hungary performed during the whole history of PISA. There you have the cycles. PISA is, as I already said, since 2000 and happens every 3 years in all 3 domains like reading, mathematics and science. And we have reading results since 2000. We have mathematics results since 2003, and we have science results since 2006. What results do we have? So, at the first cycle, Hungary achieved below. This was the OECD average. So Hungary achieved in reading way below the OECD mean. And as time moved on, this remained for some years constant. So in reading, we stayed below the OECD average. In 2003, mathematics came in a similar way, because we didn't reach the OECD mean in mathematics either in 2003. And science was added in 2006, which was a bit better year, because at the first installment of the science assessment, Hungary scored a bit over the OECD mean, significantly at the OECD mean. And in 2009, which is, how to say, the annus mirabilis of Hungarian PISA results, we achieved all in all domains at the OECD mean, because there has been a significant improvement in reading. There has been a constant achievement in science, and well, in mathematics the OECD mean has gone a bit down, so we achieved that as well. After that time, there has been a significant decline until 2012, and as you remember, in 2015, digital medium was introduced, and it's hard to say if that is one of the reasons why, but at least there is a coincidence that reading and science went a lot more down than between these two moments in time, while mathematics remained untouched by the moving to digital. One has to say that these domains have the most reading load. So going digital may have contributed to this. And since then, we hope to see that a slow climb upwards has begun. So the overall achievement in PISA is rather below average. There is a hump-like trend in reading, the longest trend line. So it actually ends where it begins, and there's a bit of a upward curve. And there might be a promise of a little growth seen from the results between 2015 and 2018. Just for reference, these are the Finnish results. Here you have the OECD mean. So, although there is a significant decline, Finland is still very much above the OECD mean. Let's take a look at how many minutes do I have.
Well, preferably if you could make it in 5 minutes, but I understand that you are under pressure now, so...
A bit, yes. But I try. Let's take a look at another aspect of large-scale assessments. As we saw, in a literacy-based assessment, Hungary doesn't fare very well. Let's see how do we compare to other educational systems in a curriculum-based assessment. As you see, the mechanism is very much the same as it should have been at the PISA table. You have an average. This is the TIMSS scale center point, which is 500. You have the underachievers. You have the average countries, and you have the overachievers. Contrary to what we have seen in PISA, Hungary in 2019 has been one of the highest achieving countries. In fact, this is a much appreciated moment when we managed to go a bit further than Finland. And this was very much the case in the domain of science as well. So there you have the average countries, underachievers, overachievers, and here both Hungary and Finland are in the first third of countries. In fact, only the Far East and the Russian could do better. So here we have some kind of contradiction. And I'm not going to delve into how we can explain this contradiction. We just want to see a bit to trends, and then I just want to very shortly address the policy decision thematic at the end. So, we have seen that at the last installment of TIMSS, contrary to PISA, we managed to do well in science and maths, just like Finland. What do trends show? Trends show that there has been, since 1995, a bit of a down until 2011, both in mathematics and science. However, since 2011, we see a steady growth. And it's funny to see because this curve is very much like Finland's curve in PISA. So there has been an upward from a very good result. There has been a bit of a down. And of course, we do hope that both countries are going to develop upwards. Finland has only participated 2 times in TIMSS. These results are significantly not different. There is a bit of a downward movement in mathematics, but both countries perform well above the TIMSS average. So, the thing is that the strongest policy response from the part of Hungary was to create a national assessment system. So we implemented the national assessment of basic competencies in fact in 2001, and since 2001 there is a yearly assessment that reports back in these levels: national, regional, school internal, school class, and student level in the 6th, the 8th, and the 10th grade. Apart from this, since 2015, there has been other relevant decisions as responses to assessment results, and this is maybe a good time to get back to Anna's presentation, because you were right saying that compulsory education goes from 6th year to 16th, but in fact since 2015 kindergarten from 3 years of age is also compulsory. So in fact now compulsory education goes from 3 to 16, which is clearly a policy response learned from large-scale assessments. And there has been an implementation of so-called early school leaving warning and pedagogical support system, which, you know, with the aim of I just can't get the words in my head, sorry. And there has been a curriculum reform in 2020 as a response to seeing the 2 assessments. It is clear that the Hungarian school system does hand over the knowledge that is in the curriculum, but from PISA we are clearly seeing that maybe this is not the knowledge that the students may use later in the labor market or in the higher education system.
Excuse me, we will have to end pretty soon. Okay, very good.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry for the rude slides. It sometimes happens.
Thank you, László. Interesting presentation, and actually I've been keen to ask our Finnish colleagues about the developments in our PISA results during the past few years, because even though we still figure in the top 10, I understand, but still the trend has been worrying, especially in mathematics, where we used to be, I think, among the first 2 or 3 in the very beginning of the PISA results, and then at the moment, I think 2018, our position was 18th in that category. So would you like to comment that, or would our Finnish experts like to comment? What could be the reasons for this trend?
I was going to ask that. So.
Okay.
But this is a very hard question.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Any other questions? I mean, it seems that we don't get a clear reply on this one, but if the audience has any other ideas, please raise your hand. If not, I want to thank you for your presentation, and I would call then Pauliina Kupila to give her presentation on lifelong learning. Pauliina, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. So you please
Yes.
help me. So
Sure.
nice to meet you all. It's very exciting that I don't speak on front of Teams or Zoom, that I have a live audience in front of me. I haven't done this for a long time. So my name is Pauliina Kupila, and I work as a head of training in the University of Helsinki. And my main duties are to develop the lifelong learning or continuous learning services. Yes, okay. For the university, outside university. And that's my youngest child in the top of that pyramid. It's nice to see her always there when I'm afraid from home. Okay, this is my agenda. First I want to say something about the term lifelong learning and continuous learning. What is the meaning about that? Then I have different aspects. I have something to say about the national level, the Finnish way to develop the continuous learning. Then I have one slide about the learner, what about her or him, how is the situation in the continuous learner, and the last slides I have for Case University of Helsinki, which is my home university, and what we are going to do in this part of the education. So the issue is not so new. Lifelong learning has been the education policy since 1960. So already UNESCO in the 1960s in the Montreal raised this up. But in the recent years, lifelong learning has increasingly been talked about in economic terms, and its association with traditional popular education or adult education has weakened, at least at the level of the political speech. But now the new term, continuous learning, takes over the old term, and in Finland it's like a political term. We have the parliamentary reform, which I will tell you later, on continuous learning, and its scope is in the working life, the people who are in working life. And the term continuous learning is the accumulation and strengthening and updating of skills throughout life and in all areas of it. It covers learning within scope of the education system and learning that take place independently of it. And now something about the Finland, what we are doing here in the learning, continuous learning. So last year, OECD published the report, Continuous Learning in the Working Life in Finland. The report shows what are the main challenges in Finland when we talk about continuous learning. So first, the report says that Finland lacks a comprehensive continuous learning strategy. And we have shortcomings and gaps in the provision of the education and training. And our current system encourages participation in the formal education, such as bachelor's degrees. And we have the largest differences in learning participation between adults with low basic skills and those with higher skills levels amongst the OECD economies. And what we should do then? So we should diversify our education and training provision. We should make the education and training provided more labor market relevant. We should incentivize individuals to engage in labor market relevant training, provide comprehensive information and guidance services, develop tailored education programs, and reach out to the adults with the low basic skills. And to change this, what OECD raised up in their report, Finnish government started the reform of continuous learning, which is said to be the most important reforms in 2020s. The aim of the reform is to restructure the system of continuous learning to meet the needs of the future. So 3 ministries, that is Ministry of Social Affairs and Health, Ministry of Education, Economic Affairs and Employment, and the Ministry of Education and Culture are working together for this reform. The reform will respond to people's lifelong need for upskilling and reskilling and promotes learning in working life, creates a service system for continuous learning, and increases equity of the participation. So in this puzzle picture is the description about what things need to be considered when talking about reforming continuous learning. We learn all the time and in the different places, in educational institutions and courses, but also in the work and the leisure activities. So we need to reconsider the incomes when people are studying, for example, financial aids for adult students and unemployment benefits. But we also have to face the fact that big part of adult learning take place on the working places, where the more experienced colleague guides you, or you may learn independently yourself or with help of online materials, etc. So it's important to remember that formal learning, in formal learning I mean the learning that takes place in the schools or in the other educational systems, that it's the small part of learning overall. You and I, we all learn all the time and everywhere. And this is the vision and its objectives. And those 3 circles on the middle are the vision's 3 parts. And one is that everyone has the knowledge, skills, and competence required for the meaningful life. And the second, everyone develops their skills and competence during their working lives. And the third, that competence renews the world of work, and the world of work renews the competence. And when we think about the goals The one goal is that Finland have a greater equity in participation and better availability of skilled labor, and that means opportunities for everyone to upskill and reskill proactively so that they can develop their work, find a new job, and advance in their careers. The big goal of a government is, of course, improving the employment rate. So the skilled labor force supports sustainably growth, innovation, and competitiveness, and consequently well-being, and we will get skilled workforce for employers too. At the prepared actions have the same goal, the raising the level of competence of the population. And one of the specific goals is that 50% of people between 25 and 64 will have higher education degree until 2030. The higher number of competent people will higher also the employment rate. So what are the next steps in the reform? So the Ministry of Education and Culture has now established a new center called Continuous Learning and Employment Service Center. And the main duties of that center will be anticipating labor and skills needs, customer and corporate governance, analysis and coordination of supply and demand, and acquisition of competent services. So, and also an increase in budget appropriations in 2021, and overall goals of continuous learning will be also included in the national budget process, and we are using EU funding also focused on the reform of continuous learning. Then I want to say something about the Higher Education Institute's Digivision 2030, because I represent of the university sector. So all universities and University of Applied Science share this vision 2030, and they see that Finland is the model country for flexible learning and the global pioneer in higher education. That means that learners are going to provide with data on their own learning. Finland is the open and recognized learning ecosystem, and that ecosystem also provides a platform for research and innovation activities benefiting society and working life extensively. Also, we see that higher education institutions are key factors in securing the high-level competence. And this is the picture of the flexible journey of the lifelong learner according to the Digivision. And it covers the whole life of learner from preschool to retirement, and there are different ways to educate yourself during life. Behind all there is a national identity, so each learner, like a Sami in the bottom in the picture, has one national identity, and all education has a joint authentication service. The national My Data portal will provide the learner with access to all information for life. The information provides a basis for advising, guidance, and identification of competence and possibilities to educate yourself during your lifelong journey. Then one slide about the continuous learning project, because that's the sub-project that I'm involved also. I'm a part of this group who is working on this. So our task is to write project plan to the national marketplace for the continuous learning. And the main idea in this marketplace is to gather all education and training provision provided by universities and other education organizations. So when present situation is that you should know what you want to study, where you want to study, and find your options in the different places on web. But the future goal is that we have only one place to find the possibilities and see and get the get to study. And that marketplace also has coaching and using artificial intelligence to help learner to find different options. Then something about the learner. When we think about learner, there is a few aspects that need to consider. First, timetable and study options. We all know if we have family and we have busy working life and little leisure time, there is not so much time to study. But when we have time, is there any interesting courses going on, and do we know or have even any clue what to study which improves our competence and skills? Secondly, there is a question about credits versus competence. Credits are not always important to learner. You need just the competence which you get from the course. But the credits are very important to us universities because we get core funding about that. I saw the picture about the funding, and Anna mentioned the funding earlier. And there's also many obstacles for the individual point of view. You have that lack of time, you have everyday life, you have family hobbies, children's hobbies, old parents and so. And then you have to think about the money or how you get along with your income while you are studying. And there's always a question about that if that course doesn't meet all your needs. Then the case University of Helsinki. So the University of Helsinki is the oldest university in Finland since 1640. And it's also the biggest and the only university which is among top 100 universities of world's over 14,000 universities. We have over 8,000 employees and almost 32,000 full-time students. And our degree selection is the broadest in the Finland. So we have the 63 master's program and 33rd bachelor's programs in English and so. And we have also the continuous learning project, 2 years project, which we're developing operating model for the continuous learning. And the project was founded by Ministry of Education. Actually, I was the project manager in this project, and I have the brand manager and the 3 part-time specialists in my team. And our goals were to clarify the vision of the University of Helsinki as a provider of continuous learning, and change the supply, service environment and processes related to the continuous learning, define the division of duties and generation of revenue between faculties, degree programs, the Open University and the Center of Continuous Learning, Continuous Education, and create the concept and the brand for the continuous learning. And this is our text from our strategic plan for the years 2021 and 2030. And our mission is that in the 2030, the university will be an acknowledged, attractive and accessible environment of continuous learning, which meets the changing educational needs of the society. And according to that strategic plan, we have also the vision of the continuous learning, which was the goal of our project. And these are the 4 parts of that vision. So the first is that the promise to provide Bildung and research orientation are the cornerstones of continuous learning. The main strategic sentence in university strategy is that Bildung, knowledge and learning are for everyone. Then that was the second. And third, the University of Helsinki is a trusted partner for representatives of the labor market. And fourth, that continuous learning is part of the university's everyday activities. And if I saw something about this fourth more, that it's also important to remember that meanwhile we are offering possibilities to everyone outside university to learn something research-based, new issues, we also have to offer our staff opportunities for continuous learning and take care of their skills and competence for the future, not just the people outside university. What about today? We started a new unit 1st of January this year. It calls like Services for the Digital Education and Continuous Learning. It includes 3 units: Educational Technology Services, Open University Teaching and other continuous learning services, and digital evaluation process and support services. And altogether, this unit has approximately 70 people. And we are working for the degree programs and the faculties. This is the funding model for the universities. And so the Ministry of Education and Culture funds universities at 42% of funding comes on the basis of educational results, for example, bachelor and master degrees, and 34% of funding comes from the research, for example, PhDs and publications. And that's the 5% of about this education funding comes from the continuous learning, and that includes open university studies, the credits of these, professional specialization education, and non-degree studies, and also 1% of funding consists of collaborative studies between the universities. And this is all the opportunities for the learning to the different target groups. So we have opportunities for continuous or lifelong learning for everyone, which means that we are offering open university courses and MOOCs. It is massive open online courses for everyone which are interested. We also see that our web pages open meeting places like Think Corner, libraries, and all our events are offering possibilities to learn and renew the competence. Secondly, we have special services for children and young people, like science clubs and camps, but also open university courses to upper secondary school students. The main target group for continuous learning is, of course, adults, which are in the working life. Addition to the open university courses, we have several professional competence development and specialization programs to individuals. And the Center for Continuous Education, HY+, as we said in Finnish, offers tailored custom training for organizations and groups. And these are the statistics last year. We have 1,228 open university courses, 166 continuing education courses provided by HY+, 83 MOOCs, so massive open online courses, and 10 specialization education programs. And altogether, we had over 56,000 students in the continuous learning. This is our brand story. Rethink yourself. We may have the stickers. Rethink yourself in the chairs. And I want to leave this there because the main sentence is there in the bottom. Learn as you learn today, know tomorrow. Thanks for this, and if you have any questions, I will happy to answer.
Right. Any questions to Pauliina? Please, Anna.
Yeah, I would like to ask that how much or in what way does the system support those adults in the work life who are not necessarily looking for upscaling their current skills, but maybe like career changers who, I don't know, maybe when I'm 35, I decided, okay, I don't want to be a cultural producer anymore, I want to be an engineer or whatever. Like, is there support for those people? Because of course, like they
Financial support, you mean?
like, are there opportunities in a way that they of course have to work and at the same time, so they can escape the same bachelor degree?
For example, the Open University courses, we are planning those that way that they are not in the daytime. They are always in the afternoons or evenings. They are always in the web or internet. So there might be the lectures that you can listen then when you want, that they are not in online, and that's sort of make the studying more easier when you are in working life. And of course, after you have studied, for example, 60 credits in the Open University, you may apply for the whole degree studies. But you may also get the financial aid if you have a degree students. And now we have this reforming continuous learning that they are wondering different ways how to develop also this that we could they also study the adults who are in working life.
I had a further comment regarding the obstacles that you mentioned. I think it's absolutely crucial for an employee that he or she can do this lifelong learning or take these lifelong learning courses during the work time. Mm-hmm. You mentioned obstacles such as lack of time, everyday life, money and income related to the courses themselves, or that the course does not meet your needs. But personally, if I would think taking a lifelong learning course after my work with, family needs and so on top of everything, would be quite demanding. How does that apply normally in the Finnish context?
Yeah, the business organizations and the firms, I know that they are offering the possibilities to learn in the working times. So it's the issue in the University of Helsinki. We can study. I think it's now the 2 hours a week that we can use the working time for the upskill our upskills. Yes. Yeah. But that's a good question, because you don't. I don't like to use my leisure time to study while I'm a manager in the continuous learning. I'm not the best example about that, but I know the people who are very keen on study, and that's sometimes it could be a hobby also, that you like to study different things.
Okay, Pauliina, many thanks for your presentation, and let's have a round of applause for her as well. We are a little bit behind schedule, but I would ask your patience, and maybe 15 minutes more than that was initially scheduled. We will now turn to the panel discussion, and I would ask all the previous orators also to join Pauliina behind the desk, and then Katalin Sipőcz will be moderating the discussion. Katalin, you have the floor, and then whenever there's a speaker or someone who takes who wants to comment something, please speak towards the microphone so that people online can also hear you. Katalin, you have the floor.
So, thank you for these presentations, and for these presentations with many new and interesting information Thank you for it. And first of all, I would like to brave the audience to put questions or to tell your comments. So feel free and raise your hand anytime if you have a comment or a question. So I think that this is a great situation when we have Hungarian and Finnish experts of education, and I know that you are interested in the educational questions and the educational systems of Finland. So my question goes back to the first presentation, to Anna's presentation. You touched shortly the teacher training system in Finland. And in Hungary, we know that the teacher training system, teacher education in Finland is a story of successes. So pupils want to be a teacher, they want to continue their studies on this line, and it is an honor to be a teacher or to become a teacher. It's a big deal. What do you think? And the situation in Hungary, I'm afraid it's not so good, and in other countries as well. What do you think? What is the secret of Finnish teacher training or teacher education?
Well, that is a difficult question for sure. I guess in Finland, overall, my experience is that the profession of a teacher has always been a valued one. People appreciate teachers. Maybe there's a little decrease in that in recent years, but in general, the profession of a teacher is valued high and appreciated. And I guess that's maybe one thing that is shown like everywhere. Maybe that's the reason also why many want to be teachers, because they see that it's a valued profession where you have like a meaningful job. And as far as the teachers I know, everybody is very dedicated to their work, and they honestly care about their students and also about their subject, that they are, well, of course, if they are subject teachers, but then also the school teachers. And somehow I think it's that devotion in general that kind of reflects around and is shown also in schools. But what is the actual secret? It's really difficult, really, of course, to say what is behind there.
I have a brief question based on just an outsider's view. It seems that in Finland there have been many changes in teachers' training and also the principles of how to teach in a class. Finland has been very successful so far in the PISA results, but as I said, they have gone down to some extent during the past few years. And at the same time, there have been discussions about whether the whole concept of teaching is becoming too chaotic to the class. Can you expand this discussion a little bit, because I understand that this is of some concern among the professionals.
Yes, for sure there has been a lot of things that have changed during the years in general when we think about education. Like starting from well, internet and all that, how much of the education and how much like computers we need these days. Also, this just like you said, the many ideas in teaching in general have changed a lot in the recent years due to the studies in the field, and yeah, it's the reason why the results have been going down. Of course, that's a difficult one, but certainly all of this is a part of it. That also the teachers have to adjust to the changes in the education field. And in a way, I also think just the general atmosphere has in ways changed towards schools and towards teachers a little bit, like I already mentioned. It is teachers seem to be expected a lot, and yes, that's one thing also, but it's for sure also a very complex.
And I think that in the schools there is so many things going on, yes, and there's so many people with different problems that the teacher's work is not colleges or policemen also. So I have few friends in the primary school and the upper secondary school and the basic schools also, and some of them have also leave the school, that they don't get it anymore because it's going so tough, that work in the schools nowadays.
How many lessons, how many hours a teacher has?
It depends about the subject you teach, but normal, I think it's 20-22 hours a week, plus the homework also.
Actually,
I do have a question because I was intrigued by what you said about money beginning to interfere with education as because of the competition to, I understood that it was entering tertiary education. Mm-hmm. Well-off families tend to send their children to paid courses. Mm-hmm. Besides school, is that the case? And is that new in Finland?
Yeah, there's a case of basically these courses that the usually parents are paying for are like preparation courses for the entrance exams to get into universities, for example, to get into those fields which are, well, difficult because there's so many applicants, like medical or law field. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that is the case, that if you are wealthy enough to be able to pay for these kind of courses, then of course you are better off in the entrance exam than mm-hmm. those who are just alone with the books and trying to study for the entrance exam.
And also those preparation courses have also come to the upper secondary schools too, yeah. Because you have to get the great credits from the mathematics that you can get the enough points when you are going to entrance to the university exams.
Yeah, because this is when education becomes a market, actually, and that's when the family background begins to creep in.
Yeah. Yes, and this is one reason why I think it's really bad that this is happening, because in Finland the basic education is free, and it is even in the law in Finland that it is illegal to charge for basic education. That's why we don't really have that much private schools in there, and this is like completely against that idea.
Yeah, and this happened in Hungary in the 90s, so we're still struggling with it, and this is why family background has such an impact on the student achievement in Hungary.
So this is a bit of a warning sign.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
Magyarul is bátorítanék mindenkit, tehát hogy nyugodtan lehet magyarul is kérdéseket feltenni. Megfordítjuk, vagy finnül is, természetesen, hogyha az kényelmesebb. Igen.
I would like to ask you, it's okay.
Still okay.
I was just thinking that I remember when I was done, I studied in Finland, and when I was done with my bachelor's degree, I felt like that I was out of my safe bubble after like 3.5 years, and I had like no networks, no like I was having a really hard time to find myself this harjoittelupaikka because I was studying in a University of Applied Sciences, and I had to do all this by myself. And I was thinking that what kind of strategies do universities have to give the networks to the students so they can get along in the work life later, like that they can sell themselves and get to know the people that will possibly hire them later. Is there such strategy, that kind of a transition from the school life to the actual work life?
I know that in the University of Helsinki there's some projects that involves these questions, because actually they have noticed that the students that comes from abroad that are not the Finnish-speaking students, they have had very much difficulties to get those harjoittelupaikka, so trainee programs also. And I don't know the system nowadays what is, but I know that there's a project that I hope so it's going to be better.
Well, one question related to lifelong learning or continuous learning. For the Hungarian panelists, if you have some knowledge about the situation in Hungary in that regard, and also for Pauliina, that do we have some international experiences? I mean experiences from other countries, and have we learned from them in this regard as well? Thank you.
First?
I'm not really an expert.
You don't know.
I don't know.
Do you have the ministry that you have raised up this issue in Hungary?
Actually, it's not the ministry charged with education,
okay,
but it's the ministry charged with internal affairs and economics.
Okay.
So it's regarded as an economics issue.
Yeah. Okay.
So, for example, I can tell you that we have an open university, and it has been about 5 or 6 years, and it means that the citizens can come to several courses, and this is a new thing in this university. And as I know, there are open universities in other open courses in other universities in Hungary as well. But about the system,
so the need of upskill or reskill your or the reason that's worldwide,
yes.
And we have benchmarked some of course the Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, and we have the same kind of problems. And the problem is that we don't have the courses that are so shorter than the degree, and you should have those because you don't have the time to study 3 years some subject, but you need some skills that you can renew your skills, and also we lack of those courses that are relevant to that working life problem that you have. So those MOOCs, which are those massive open online courses like artificial intelligence is one of them. Those are, they take over 10 hours to get that information about artificial intelligence, and that would be enough that you need to know about that. So we need to do those short courses more, and those, and then you have the enough time to do that also in your busy working life and family, to see the videos or listen to the audios and do the 10 hours course, not 3 years course.
In fact, I do have another last question.
Okay.
We learned a lot about, what you offer to someone who wants to learn. How about the other way around? Mm-hmm. If someone learns something in an informal setting or in a work setting, can he or she have it acknowledged, or
what's
the situation with that?
Yeah, that's a problem we have recognized, because it's very difficult for the university teachers to understand that you can learn something outside university.
I know.
Yeah, and that could be relevant to your subject, but we are working on it. Yeah. But in the lower education systems, not in university, it could be easier to get those studies or things
like
that you need. Everyone,
training.
yeah, but not in university. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Katalin, and thank you for our audience as well for the questions. I would just like to wind up the discussion by saying that there seems to be many new trends that still need to be tackled in both countries in the education system. And I'm quite sure that this kind of exchange of views is necessary to share best practices and also to take into consideration new challenges that education will be facing. Before we close this seminar, I want to invite my team to come over and bring some small gifts that we wanted to give to all of our panelists, also to Katalin and to Dr. Csaba Vicsi, if he's still around. So that,
he's at the catering.
He's at the catering. We will give it to him at that stage, because he's our honorary consul in Szeged, and he's been very helpful during the past few days. But anyhow, we want to give you a small souvenir on behalf of FinnAgora, and Miriam will be giving you the different bags. It's a textile bag from FinnAgora and some books, and
Very
also chocolates, and also to Katalin. Thank you very much for your patience, and thank you for the panelists once more for participating to this seminar, and I wish you all a very nice autumn. And now, please join us for the small snacks and drinks that we have outside of this room. Thank you.
Thank you.